जय गोपीजनवल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जय यशोदानन्दन जय ब्रज जनरञ्जन जय यशोदानन्दन जय ब्रज जनरञ्जन जय यमुनातीरवनचारी जय कुञ्ज बिहारी जय यमुनातीरवनचारी जय कुञ्ज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुञ्ज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुञ्ज बिहारी जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे हरि बोल। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Gauranga. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe. Jaya Pancha Tattva Jaya Pancha Tattva Jaya Pancha Tattva Jaya Pancha Tattva. Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha Jaya Bhakta Prahlad Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha Jaya Bhakta Prahlad. Jaya Jagannath Jaya Jagannath Jaya Baladev Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Srila Prabhupada Prabhupada Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Srila Prabhupada. हरिबोल हरिनाम संकीर्तन की श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य स्तोत्र सत श्री श्रीमान हिज डिवाइन ग्रेस एसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य स्तोत्र सत श्री श्रीमान हिज डिवाइन ग्रेस श्रील भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी ठाकुर श्रील प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की नाम आचार्य श्रील हरिदास ठाकुर की प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyam Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan ki, Shri Navadvip Mayapur Dham ki, Shri Jagannath Puri Purushottam Kshetra Nilachal Dham ki, Vrindavan Dham Gokul Dham Mathura Dham Dwarka Dham ki, ISKCON centers worldwide ki, ISKCON Mayapur Dham ki, Ganga Mai Yamuna Mai ki, Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi ki, Samavet Bhakt Vrinda ki. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the most merciful lotus feet of Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So thank you all for assembling for morning class, a very, very important component of our morning program. I'm so grateful for your presence. And I humbly request your blessings so that by your mercy and your empowerment, I may be given the ability to speak something that is truthful, beneficial, and pleasing to all the Vaishnavas. My humble obeisances. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha patita nam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So we are continuing our reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 9, entitled Answers by Citing the Lord's Version. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So yesterday, His Grace Advaitacharya Prabhu gave us a very enlightening class on this particular verse and the first half of the purport. So we humbly seek his blessings so that we may continue in his footsteps very humbly to try to serve the devotees, because for me personally, I didn't want to get off the computer. I just wanted the class to go on. It's so wonderful to hear from devotees who have dedicated their lives to the process of bhakti yoga, who are now sharing this message of Krishna consciousness with others. Very purifying. So we humbly seek the blessings of our seniors, to all of you senior devotees here, Guru Parampara, to the presiding deities, to please give us your blessings so that we may do justice to this service that has been given to us today. Hare Krishna. So we will read the verse and we will pick up from somewhere in the middle of the purport. So everyone can see the verse, right? Okay. Rthaṁ yat pratīyeta na pratīyeta cātmani tad vidyād ātmano māyāṁ yathābhāso yathā tamaḥ rthaṁ yat pratīyeta na pratīyeta cātmani tad vidyād ātmano māyāṁ yathābhāso yathā tamaḥ. Please repeat. Mataji's? Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. O Brahma, whatever appears to be of any value, if it is without relation to me, has no reality. Know it as my illusory energy, that reflection which appears to be in darkness. Please repeat. O Brahma, whatever appears to be of any value, if it is without relation to me, has no reality. Know it as my illusory energy. That reflection which appears to be in darkness. So who is speaking over here? Lord Krishna is answering Brahma. He has just shaken hands with Brahma, just as a friend does with a friend. And Brahma very humbly says, please let me not have any pride in carrying out this duty, this seva of creation. Yes? And who is speaking all this? At the beginning of the chapter, Shukadev Goswami is answering whom? Parikshit Maharaj. Very good. Okay. So, we heard very nicely yesterday, so many important points are there. This is a very long purport, but we'll begin at this point. The sane man, however, is enlightened in the disciplic succession from Brahmaji, who was personally instructed by the Lord, or in the disciplic succession from Arjun, who was personally instructed by the Lord in the Bhagavad Gita. He accepts this statement of the Lord, Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. The Lord is the original source of all emanations. How does that verse go? Aham sarvasya prabhavo. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Krishna is describing, I am the source of everything. So, the same theme continues. And everything that is created, maintained, and annihilated exists by the energy of the Lord. The sane man, again Prabhupada says, the sane man who knows this is actually learned, and therefore he becomes a pure devotee of the Lord, engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Although the reflectory energy of the Lord displays various illusions to the eyes of persons with a poor fund of knowledge, again, the sane person knows clearly that Lord can act even from far, far beyond our vision by His different energies, just as fire can diffuse heat and light from a distant place. In medical science of the ancient sages known as Ayurveda, there is definite acceptance of the Lord's supremacy in the following words. Jagadyoner anichasya chid anandaika pumsosti prakritir nitya pratyachayeva bhasvatah acetanapi chaitanya yogena paramatmanah akarod vishvam akhilam anityam natakakritam. So what is the meaning? There is one supreme person who is the progenitor of this cosmic manifestation, whose energy acts as prakriti or material nature, dazzling like a reflection. By such illusory action of prakriti, even dead matter is caused to move by the cooperation of the living energy of the Lord, and the material world appears like a dramatic performance to ignorant eyes. The ignorant person, therefore, may even be a scientist or physiologist in the drama of prakriti, but the sane person knows the prakriti as the illusory energy of the Lord. By such a conclusion, as confirmed by Bhagavad Gita, it is clear that the living entities are also a display of the Lord's superior energy, para prakriti. And Krishna says this, Bhagavad Gita 7.4.7.5, Krishna declares this. Just as the material world is a display of the Lord's inferior energy, para prakriti, superior energy cannot be as good as the Lord, although there's very little difference between energy and possessor of the energy of fire and heat. Fire is possessed of heat, but heat is not fire. This simple thing is not understood by the man with a poor fund of knowledge who falsely claims that fire and heat are the same. The energy of the fire, namely heat, is explained as a reflection and not directly fire. Therefore, living energy represented by living entities is a reflection of the Lord and never the Lord himself. Being reflection, the existence of living entity is dependent on the Supreme Lord, who is the original light. Material energy may be compared to darkness, and it is actually darkness. And activities of living entities in darkness are like reflections of the original light. The Lord should be understood by the context of this verse. Non-dependence of both the energies is explained as māyā, that which is not, or illusion. No one can make a solution of the darkness of ignorance simply by reflection of light. Similarly, no one can come out of material existence simply by the reflected light of a common man. One has to receive light from the original light itself. The reflection of sunlight in darkness is unable to drive out darkness, but the sunlight outside the reflection can drive out darkness completely. In darkness, no one can see things in a room. Therefore, a person becomes afraid of snakes and scorpions, although there may not be such things. But in the light, the things in the room can be clearly seen, and the fear of snakes and scorpions is at once removed. Therefore, one has to take shelter of the light of the Lord, as in the Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, and not the reflective personalities who have no touch with the Lord. See, this is the warning for us. No one should hear Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam from a person who does not believe in the existence of the Lord. Such a person is already doomed. And an association with such a doomed person makes the associator also doomed. According to Padma Puran, within the material compass, there are innumerable material universes. All of them are full of darkness. Brahma, Bhuvana, Loka. From the highest planet down to the lowest. Any living being beginning from Brahmas, and there are innumerable Brahmas in innumerable universes to the insignificant ant, all are born in darkness, and they require factual light from the Lord to see him directly, just as the sun can be seen only by the direct light of the sun. No lamp or man-made torch, however powerful, may help one see the sun. The sun reveals itself. Therefore, the action of different energies of the Lord or the personality of Godhead can be realized by the light manifested by the causeless mercy of the Lord. Impersonalists say God cannot be seen. God can be seen by the light of God and not by man-made speculations. Here this light is specifically mentioned as vidyāt, which is an order by the Lord to Brahma. This direct order of the Lord is a manifestation of his internal energy, and this particular energy is the means of seeing the Lord face to face. Not only Brahma, but anyone who may be graced by the Lord to see such merciful direct internal energy can also realize the personality of Godhead without any mental speculation. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं समग्ना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णापादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्ता राधाकान्ता नमोऽस्तुते तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी ऋषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So many wonderful important points are being made, but I would like to start from the beginning where it says the sane man hears the scriptural knowledge in disciplic succession. Why is this important? Because the knowledge will be pure and will come down as it is. Without any addition, adulteration, subtraction, deviation, we will be getting the knowledge as it is. Therefore, the disciplic succession, parampara, is so important for us. So, in Nectar of Devotion, Srila Prabhupada declares, Srimad Bhagavatam should be received in disciplic succession without any breakage. When a ripened fruit comes from the upper part of a tree onto the ground, by the process of being handed down carefully from a higher branch to a lower branch by persons in the tree, the fruit does not break. Srimad Bhagavatam, when received in the parampara or disciplic succession, will likewise remain unbroken. So we are very fortunate. We are receiving knowledge as it is by mercy of the pure devotee, Srila Prabhupada. Krishna spoke to Brahmaji to Narad Muni to Vyasadev to Madhvacharya, and then further down, Madhvendra Puri, Ishwar Puri, Lord Chaitanya, and then further down, Goswamis, Baladev Vidyabhushan, Vishwanath Chakravarti, and then our disciplic succession that we are familiar with, and finally Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, and then Srila Prabhupada. How fortunate we are. Those who listen outside the disciplic succession remain in the darkness of ignorance because they are not receiving the knowledge as it is. That is why Prabhupada entitled his Bhagavad Gita as it is. And from whom should we hear? From whom should we hear? From the bona fide spiritual master. Only one who is in transcendental knowledge can free us, because a person who is bound cannot free you. He is also bound, right? So, in Bhagavad Gita 7:14, Srila Prabhupada explains so nicely. A man bound by hands and feet cannot free himself. He must be helped by a person who is unbound. Because the bound cannot help the bound, the rescuer must be liberated. Therefore, only Lord Krishna or his bona fide representative, the spiritual master, can release the conditioned soul. Without such superior help, we cannot be freed from material bondage. So devotional service or Krishna consciousness helps one to gain such release, and the Lord, being the master of the illusory energy, he orders this insurmountable energy to free the conditioned soul who has surrendered. So if we don't want the torment of Durga Devi, what we should do? Surrender. Because by surrendering, the surrender is very sweet actually. In the material world, you tell someone to surrender, they say, surrender. No, 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 I want my independence, as though we have any independence. We don't, but we think we have that independence. So when we surrender, we are coming closer and closer to our natural position of loving servitorship to Krishna. So it is in our interest to surrender. The more unsurrendered we are, the more insane we are. The more Krishna conscious we are, the more sane we are. Because that is sanity, that is the position which is real, because we are nothing but insignificant little sparks meant to serve Krishna. Only Krishna is the enjoyer. He is the proprietor. He is the controller. He is the owner. He is everything. And we are simply dependent on Him for everything. So in a dependent position, what can the living entity do? He tries to lord it over material nature and falls flat on his face every time, right? And how many lifetimes have we done this? Anybody can count? So many lifetimes. So therefore it behooves us to pay attention to the words of the pure devotee whose only interest is to free you from your suffering condition. In this material world, there is only one benefactor, the pure spiritual master. He is the only one who can release us from this darkness of ignorance. That's why we say, isn't it? Om ajnanatimirandasya jnananjana shalakaya chakshur unmilitam yena tasmai shri guruve namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, and my spiritual master has opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him, that pure spiritual master. So therefore we sing every day, isn't it? The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the abode of pure devotional service. I bow down to those lotus feet with great care and attention. My dear brothers and sisters, it is by the grace of the spiritual master that we can cross this material existence and attain the mercy of Krishna. So transcendental knowledge is not a head thing. It's a heart thing. Transmission is from the heart. And the purification takes place in the heart. Realization takes place in the heart. And finally, when a heart becomes a pure place, Krishna will be happy to come and reside. And once he comes there, lock him up. Don't let him go. Okay, so to go on to the further points before I get off track, I have a tendency to get distracted, so please bear with me. So Krishna is explaining, in a dark room, we cannot see anything. Haven't we experienced that? We go into unfamiliar surroundings and everything is dark, and what happens? We don't know. We will fall over the table, we'll fall over the chair, we'll fall over some other furniture. But when we put on the light, what happens? Brightness, isn't it? So, Prabhupada goes on to explain, this nectar of devotion will teach us how to turn on that one switch that will brighten everything, everywhere. Haribol! Who doesn't want the brightness? We want to see everything clearly, isn't it? So we don't stumble and fall over everything. One who does not know this is missing the point of life. This is a very strong statement, but Prabhupada is making it. See how important it is to understand these instructions, these nectar of devotion verses, which are explaining to us how the light of knowledge is what we need to remove the darkness that is within. So the darkness within can only be dispelled by the Supreme Lord or his bona fide representative. All the reflections are also bound by the material energy. Just like a father and a son. The son may be ditto copy of the father, but he's always the son. Can he take the place of the father? No, he is only a child, right? So, anyone who is conditioned soul in this material world cannot give us true knowledge. This is important to understand because there are so many fake godmen and godwomen also. They will fool you. They will try to befool you by utilizing mystic powers, some mantras, some energies, and they are very powerful. Some of them, they have siddhis. They can hypnotize people, mass hypnosis, and people follow them. Many years ago, there was this personality, I don't remember, they were called the moon people. And he managed to hypnotize everyone, and they all committed mass suicide. I forget the name of the person. Anyway, so this is the power that such people have over others. And hundreds of people drank something called Kool-Aid, which was laced with cyanide, and they committed suicide. Hundreds. So this is what happens in the material world when we get fooled by powerful personalities who are not God, but who claim to be God. So our disciplic succession becomes very important. Krishna Surya Sama, Maya hoy andakar, yaha Krishna taha nahi, Maya ra adhikar. So Krishna is compared to sunshine, Maya is compared to darkness. So we don't want to remain in the darkness of ignorance. Asatoma satgamaya, tamasoma jyotirgamaya, mrityorma amritam gamaya. What does that mean? Don't remain in illusion. Don't remain in darkness. Come into the light. And what is that light? Knowing who you are. Knowing who is God. Knowing our relationship with Krishna. So who is God? Krishna! Who are we? Spirit souls. And what is your real nature? Eternal, blissful, full of knowledge. That is who we really are. And what is our relationship? Loving servitorship to Krishna. And Krishna wants this. He wants us to come back because this is the position in which we can be completely happy. So my dear spirit souls, don't let us sell ourselves short. Don't let us take half measures. Let's go for pure devotional service because that is the position of complete happiness, complete joy, complete peace, and complete love for Sri Krishna, which is our spiritual birthright. You have a right to attain that in the human form of life. Cats, dogs, trees, animals, birds, bees, butterflies, grasshoppers, worms, earthworms, they cannot attain this. You have been given a very rare chance to attain the perfection of life. So we should not misuse this opportunity. All the material worlds are places of darkness. It doesn't matter where you go in this material world, whether it's America or New Zealand or Timbuktu or even the higher planets, all are places of misery, wherein repeated birth and death take place. But one who returns to my abode never comes here again. So we want to make a final exit, right? Do we want to take birth again and again? How many brave souls want to take birth again and again? No brave souls here, right? We want to go back to the spiritual world because that's where we belong. We don't belong here. This is an alien situation. It is a very difficult situation for the living entity to be imprisoned in this material body, which is so embarrassing. It's such an embarrassment to be in this material body, isn't it? Every time you have to take care of bodily needs, you're perspiring, you're sweating, then once in a while you have to go to hospital and they poke you with so many things and you're miserable and you think, why did I take birth here, Krishna? I left you and I took birth here. What a fool thing to do. Now please help me come back. Please help me come back to you. So Lord Chaitanya is teaching us the way. So Srila Prabhupada says in this very same chapter 2:9-18, so beautiful. Listen up. Following the footsteps of Lord Brahma, any person, Haribol, any person, even up to this day, can attain the same perfection by following the path of the Paramahamsa as recommended herein. Lord Chaitanya also approved of this method of self-realization for the men of this age by teaching us pure devotional service. The Lord himself came as a devotee to teach us the path of pure devotion. And what was Lord Chaitanya doing? Chanting and dancing all the time, right? All the time. Dhule dhule gaurachan, Hari guna gai. Dhule dhule gaurachan, Hari guna gai. Krishna Chaitanya was simply singing and dancing all the time. Why? Because he wants everyone to sing and dance. He's made it very easy for the people of this age of Kali, because we are not capable of much. But we can all come together and sing and dance, right? So he said, let's make it simple. Sing, dance, take prasadam, engage in service, come back to me. So simple, so sweet, so easy, so sublime, yet we will not do it. Zid karke बैठ जाते हैं. No, I will not do. Why should I do? You foolish Hare Krishnas, what you all do? Some people talk like this, हाथ ऊपर करके नाचते रहते हैं, काम वाम कुछ नहीं, no responsibilities, running in the streets. What are they doing? Well, we are giving people real knowledge that frees them from the cycle of birth and death. There is no greater benefactor than that humble little devotee on the street giving out books. There is no greater devotee than that humble devotee on the street singing Harinam, because he is giving the highest benediction to humanity at large. So, our movement is a very powerful movement. It's a very great movement, and it is meant to save the world in its darkest hour. Srila Prabhupada said, historians will note that this is the movement which saved the world in its darkest hour, by giving them real knowledge. So never think. Sometimes we feel as Hare Krishnas when we see the others, especially in my family, they're all big shots. And look at me, poor little me. I don't care, but still, we must understand the value of this Krishna consciousness. We must understand the value of what Prabhupada has given us. And we must be very proud to belong to ISKCON. We must be very proud of what Prabhupada has done to save this world. And we should. This is the only pride that is allowed to a devotee. To feel proud of Srila Prabhupada. To feel proud of ISKCON. Jahan dal dal par sone jaise भक्तों करते हैं हरि नाम, वो इस्कॉन देश है मेरा, वो इस्कॉन देश है मेरा. Everywhere, in every shakha, in every branch, humble devotees are giving the highest of the highest to all the fallen conditions. Believe me, you are so lucky in Mayapur Dham. You have no idea what the rest of the world is suffering from. You have no idea. You are very blessed to be here. You're very lucky, you're very fortunate. The rest of the world is suffering in the darkness of ignorance, and this Harinam Sankirtan, which is Golokera Prem Dhan, Harinam Sankirtan will bring the light to the whole world, because this is Lord Chaitanya's desire. Pratīyeta ache yata nagaradi gram, sarvatra prachar hoibe mora naam. And Prabhupada said, this flood of Krishna consciousness will inundate the whole world. And we'll all be floating in ecstasy singing, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Never doubt how powerful this movement is. Never doubt that Srila Prabhupada's words will come true, that there will be a golden age, there will be a Satya Yuga, even within this Kali Yuga. There will be joy, there will be peace, there will be contentment, there will be happiness. And all the suffering of the living entities, all the living entities, not just humans, birds, bees, butterflies, all will be joyful because of this Hare Krishna movement, as long as we keep chanting. So chanting is the most important thing. Chant, chant, chant. And don't say can. This chanting is the game changer. It's going to change the world. It has changed us, isn't it? What were our lives before Krishna's mercy, before Prabhupada's mercy, and how we have changed. So, even if fallen people like us can change, what about the rest of the world? Why not? So each of us is given this responsibility to make this golden age happen by becoming Krishna conscious and giving Krishna consciousness to others. Prabhupada said, you have become fortunate, you go and make others fortunate by giving them Krishna consciousness. And it's very simple, it's very easy. We don't have to be big pandit, big scholar, big anything. We just continue to be small, simple, humble devotees and simply repeat the message as it is. Yare dekha tare kaha Krishna upadesh. How much time and effort it takes to tell people, you are part and parcel of God. You are simply wonderful. Take part in this Krishna consciousness, you will become simply wonderful. Prabhupada said this, I'm not making up stuff. He said, take this philosophy which is simply wonderful. Eat simply wonderful, which is a sweet. And you will become simply wonderful. So this is simply wonderful, joyful, susukham kartum avyayam. And by taking part in it, we are actually doing the highest welfare work for all humanity. Not just humanity, all creation. And Krishna becomes so pleased when we chant, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, Srila Prabhupada said, chanting will change the world. He said the whole world will become like Vaikuntha and there will be no more problems. How many of us want to see that? Yes? So I'm going to sing a song to remind us. Chanting, if we all would keep chanting with all the strength we have. Oh, what joy, what peace and contentment, if we all would keep chanting all the time. There'd be so many hearts contented, so many would be less in pain, so many would be less afflicted. What joy and love would reign, so let's keep chanting and chanting with all the strength and might we have. What greater joy is there than in chanting all the time? Haribol. So we will stop here. Thank you all for listening patiently. We will now open up for questions, comments, criticisms, corrections. I humbly request my seniors to please correct me. I'm just a fumbling neophyte. How will I learn unless I'm corrected? So please bless me to do better by correcting me. My humble request. Yes, Prabhu, please take the microphone.
One time I asked Jayapataka Swami if we should desire to go back to Godhead, to the spiritual world, or if we should just desire to serve the spiritual master, like Jami Prabhu say, birth after birth. So he said, would you rather go back to Godhead or be part of Prabhupada's pastimes? So naturally, we think that we'd like to be part of Prabhupada's pastimes. And, you know, any of us that have experienced that. So, is it this desire to go back to Godhead? Is it kind of like a personal desire, like to gain moksha, become free from birth, death, old age, and disease, and reside eternally with no more problems, or
good question.
Is it better to just serve the Guru?
Yes. The higher is to say, Krishna, whatever situation you keep me in, please give me your service, birth after birth. But in our neophyte state, Prabhupada said we should desire to go back to Godhead, because our desires will shape our actions, our behavior, our thinking towards Godhead. And we will come to the point where we will say, Krishna, whatever you desire. That's the higher one. But as neophytes, we are still at the stage where we want to go back, personally speaking, I'm speaking of myself. Going back to Godhead for me is a personal desire. So I have not reached the point where I'm saying, oh Krishna, whatever you desire, I'm not reached that point. But you're right, that is the higher desire. To offer ourselves completely and be fully surrendered. And also, that birth is a different birth. When Krishna says, go back to the material world, that is a different, that is divyam, it's transcendental. It's not being forced to take a material body because we are still having material attachments, material desires. That's a different birth. So devotee and the Lord come again and again, but that's a transcendental birth. Is that helpful? Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. You spoke about the serving the pure spiritual master and how we should take shelter of the pure spiritual master. However, we see that on a daily basis we're all given an opportunity to speak Bhagavatam amongst ourselves and sit on Vyasa-san, and largely we're hearing from one another. So, is that...
It's very important to hear from the mouth of a pure devotee. In Canto 4, Chapter 20, verse 25, if you look at that particular purport, Srila Prabhupada says 6 times. Can anyone pull up the purport for me? 6 times. It's so important to hear from the mouth of a pure devotee. So yes, we are all mixed devotees, we are not pure. But we are hearing the words of Prabhupada, who is a pure devotee. We are discussing Srimad Bhagavatam, which is written by Prabhupada, who is a pure devotee, who is quoting the acharyas, who are also pure devotees. So we are not pure devotees, but by hearing the words of Prabhupada, we will be purified. So apart from this, every one of us must listen to at least one lecture of Prabhupada every day, and our spiritual masters. That's very important, because what do we know? We are just muddling along, you know. So you're right. Hearing from, can somebody give me the purport? 4:20:25. Because the pure devotees are completely in alignment with the mission of the Lord, their words are very powerful. We will look at that purport in a minute. If someone can pull it up for me, and I will read out how many times Prabhupada says from the mouth of a pure 25. It's a famous saffron particles verse. Yeah.
Last line of the purport is from the mouth of pure devotee. Before that sentence is mouth of pure
devotee. Right. So let me read the translation. My dear Lord, you are glorified by selected verses uttered by great personalities. Such glorification of your lotus feet is just like saffron particles. When the transcendental vibration from the mouths of great devotees carries the aroma of the saffron dust of your lotus feet, the forgetful living entity gradually remembers his eternal relationship with you. Devotees thus gradually come to the right conclusion about the value of life. My dear Lord, I therefore do not need any other benediction but the opportunity to hear from the mouth of your pure devotee. So that becomes 7, because in the purport 6 times Prabhupada says it. I counted it, actually counted it. It is explained in the previous verse that one has to hear glorification of the Lord from the mouth of a pure devotee. Okay, that's 1. Let's go further down. This awakening voice comes through the mouth of a pure devotee. That's 2. Although when a pure devotee speaks, the articulation of his voice may resemble the sound of his material sky, the voice is spiritually very powerful because it touches the particles of saffron dust on the lotus feet of the Lord. Okay, that's not... Okay. For a conditioned soul, therefore, it is very important to hear from the mouth of a pure devotee who is fully surrendered to the lotus feet of the Lord. Then, okay. But if one hears from the mouth of a pure devotee, he gradually comes to the understanding of his relationship. And finally, the last sentence, therefore, this process of hearing from the mouth of a pure devotee is very important for making progress. So you're right. We must make the effort to hear every day at least one lecture of Srila Prabhupada. My humble request is to read Prabhupada's books, to hear Prabhupada's words, because they're so purifying, so powerful, so elevating, so uplifting, so enlightening, and will keep us on the path back home, back to Krishna. I hope that's clear. Any other questions, comments? Ladies are very quiet. No questions. Huh? Convinced. Srila Prabhupada said ladies are very simple. Huh? Krishna consciousness is simple for the simple, not complicated. Huh? No questions. No comments either. No criticism either. Okay, if there are no further questions, thank you all so very much. Hare Krishna.